You're listening to the Drinks in a Movie podcast, hosted by Rudy Ruiz. Spoiler alert.
Rolling Drinks in a Movie podcast. What's up, everybody? Today, I'm joined by my dear good friend, Michael Ting, and it's his first time on the show. Michael, thanks for joining me.
Thank you for having me. It's been a long time.
Yeah, we've been talking about this for a minute. Today, we're going to be talking about Tim Burton's 1989 film, Batman, starring Michael Keaton, Jack Nicholson, and of course, Kim Basinger. But first, I am very stoked to have recently gotten the new limited release, the Old Overholt 11-year-old cask strength rye, coming in at 107.4 proof. Unfortunately, my friend does not drink, but man. I have to. I've been like waiting to try this one, and I have to do it right now. So I'm going to pour a little guy here. Love Old Overholt. Love that 10-year cask strength they did last year. This one's not as strong. I mean, just 107.4 proof, but that's a good zone. I forgot to bring the 10-year out so I could do a little side-by-side, but maybe I'll do a video of that or something.
I'm almost curious to try it now. But
oh, man. I mean, I got the glasses there if you want. Yeah, if you just want to do like a little sip, like just pour a teeny tiny bit.
Yeah, maybe. Sure.
It smells like really sweet, like sweeter than I thought. So yeah, this is their 2024 limited release. Let's see. This extra aged cask strength rye from Old Overholt was barreled in autumn 2012 and aged for 11 years in a... Yeah, you're starting out strong.
Yeah.
In a 4 warehouses in Claremont, Kentucky, bottled without filtration at 107.4 proof, available nationwide in limited quantities beginning fall 2024, SRP $99. So here we go. Smells very swell. Now more peppery, so definitely caramelly, almost more like bourbon, maybe a hint of cherry now, like cherry with some pepper.
You're getting that all from the smell.
Mm-hmm. And then some like allspice kind of vibe. I think I mix up allspice and clove, but one of those. Anyway, here we go. Cheers.
What is it? Walk me through it.
It's pretty rich. It's definitely giving me what they call the Kentucky hug, when you like feel it go down and it's warm in your chest.
Okay, that's what I'm feeling
right now. So definitely that Kentucky hug. The Kentucky hug. Very peppery, like super spicy, super peppery. I don't get the sweet notes I got on the aroma. The finish is like pretty long too, but it's much more on the spicy side. I mean, as it should be for a rye. Let me go in for the second sip. That's usually like the second time is when you get a little more, because you're like
I definitely got it more the second time.
Yeah.
And I thought it was strong the first time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, it's a strong rye. It's just like rye all the way to the end. Not a lot of sweetness, just all spice, black pepper. You know, I'm not going to say it's drying, you know, and it's spicy without being bitter though. Like some of them get kind of bitter and tannic. This is not that. Yeah, I mean, it's good. It's not blowing me away and knocking my socks off. Maybe as it opens up a little bit, I'll feel differently. It's crazy. I love that they put like that it's barreled in 2012, you know, like, because I always think like, man, where was I in fall 2012? Like I was getting ready. At this point in time, I was probably having my first meeting with the visual staff at PC about my first. That would have been 2011. So fall 2012. So this would have been me like probably getting the call to like go teach Cavaliers that following summer. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, so when I think about it in those terms, like I'm 22 years old. I'm about to go teach there. I don't know a damn thing about drinking whiskey yet. Like,
when did that happen? Wait, remind me.
That was like 2016.
Oh, 2016.
2016-ish.
Right. Okay.
Well, the first time I started drinking was the summer of 2012. But I was just a rum and Coke person.
Got it.
But yeah, man, I just always love to think about that. It's crazy, just like the time it takes, and it traveled all those years to get here.
Seriously.
To us today. Love the bottle too, Old Overholt. All right, let me do one more little sip real quick.
Yeah, I have nothing to compare it to, so I'm just gonna take your word for it.
Yeah, I wish I brought the 10-year one from last year. Yeah, and it's consistent. Sometimes as you sip on, it changes quite a bit. So far, it's consistent. Still way more on the spice. I got like a hint more of that like sweetness, a little bit of the caramel on that third sip. But for the most part, flavor-wise, it's still the same. So yeah, I'm going to compare this with the 10-year and probably the Sagamore Spirit 9 pretty soon. That'll be fun. I got to make a video or something about it. But yeah, if you see it, it's worth picking up. I don't know that it's not changing my world. but it's good, especially if you like rye. If you like really strong, spicy rye, I think you'll dig this one. So anyway, and you don't see, the aged ones that much. Like now it's becoming more of a thing, which is cool. But yeah, anyway, man, let's jump into it. I don't want to spend too much time on that. Thanks for trying it though.
No, for sure.
I'm sure it was crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not an easy one to start. Like 107.4 proof and a rye.
Yeah, that was my eyes are watering.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a tough one.
Vicky Vale.
Bruce Wayne.
And what do you do for a living?
Lieutenant, is there a 6-foot bat in Gotham City?
Nice outfit.
You look fine.
I didn't ask. I have given a name to my pain.
What are you?
I'm Batman.
Where does he get those wonderful toys?
My life is really complex.
Winged freak terrorizes. Wait till they get a load of me.
Well, here we go, man. Batman 1989. We've been talking about doing this for probably a year now or so.
At least a year, maybe more.
And we're finally here. And I think you've been pushing for this one more than me. Like, I've always wanted to do it with someone at some point, but I know you kind of brought up doing it together. So when did you first see this movie? Well, I always forget this. Let me do synopsis first, and then I want to kind of reminisce about our first experiences with it. But again, directed by Tim Burton, Michael Keaton in the role as Batman. What do we got here according to IMDb? The Dark Knight of Gotham City begins his war on crime with his first major enemy being Jack Napier, a criminal who becomes a clownishly homicidal Joker. All right, for sure. Yeah, so, I mean, you're a little older than me, but you probably didn't see this in theaters, did you?
No, I was just going to say that. I know for sure my first experience watching this wasn't in theaters because I was like 5 years old.
Yeah.
Right. But I remember probably my earliest memory of seeing it is in my living room. Probably number of times, like just watching it on TV for sure. And I think I just saw it by myself too. And I think even before, I don't even know if I had seen Superman yet at that time. So it might have been my first experience seeing like a superhero film. And I think as a young boy at the time, it really had like an impact for sure. And I was really into comics too when I was young. So to see like the first kind of live action iteration of a Batman film, it was really meaningful in a lot of ways.
Would you say, was Batman kind of your I guess your superhero growing up? Because it was for me. I was never in the Superman or like any of the Marvel stuff. Because I think when I was coming up, it was very much the Batman the animated series. So that was so
absolutely.
And so
the animated series, got home from school, right? Yeah,
like all the action figures growing up, it was always like Batman. Like, and to this day, Batman is like the character and everything for me.
For sure. I think, let's see, I may have been a little bit more drawn to Superman when I was young, but it had more to do with this whole kind of like, and it's also the case with Batman, like the dual identity thing. I just love that aspect of it. And it was so simple, right? Because you watch like a Superman movie now and it's like, okay, it's just the glasses, right?
Yeah.
But I don't know. I always appreciated that. And I think it was also Christopher Reeve's like portrayal of it and just how he acted that role when he was playing Clark Kent versus Superman, just like his demeanor and his body language that I really liked. But I think what was more interesting about Batman was that, I mean, he's putting on like a whole cowl. And I think what made Batman eventually be more relatable to me is the psychological part of it, right? I think they both had traumatic events, but this idea of your parents being murdered in front of your eyes as a boy, I mean, I think you could really believe someone going down the path that he did. Yeah. Having an experience like that, like a traumatic event like that.
Yeah. And especially for him having the resources he has and all that. I remember with this, I remember we had the tape but it was always like there was a cupboard where all the videotapes went, and it was always like in the back. And I don't remember as a kid, I never personally grabbed it and watched it, but I remember seeing bits and pieces of it when I was really young, and it kind of freaked me out. Like one scene that always sticks out to me, and I love it now, but it freaked me out a lot as a kid, is when, you know, Jack Napier, Jack Nicholson's character, first like goes into the acid, blah, blah, blah. And there's a scene where he's in this dimly lit, like this doctor is trying to take care of him, but they're all like mobster types, right? So it's just this kind of hidden, you know, it's not like a doctor's office.
I was thinking about you when I watched that again.
Place, yeah. So I probably told you about this. And, you know, when the doctor is like, yeah, I tried the best I could, but the nerves are too damaged. And he's like, mirror, and his hands are bandaged.
Look what I have to work with.
Yeah. And it's like the bloody, and it's just like knives and all this bullshit, like really wacky medical tools. But when he's like unwrapping him, you know, like a mummy, like all the bandages, and you don't see his face, they don't reveal it yet. And then he just holds up the mirror and he's like, oh no. And he just starts laughing and he breaks it. And the way he like stumbles out
up the stairs,
just laughing, like all fucking out of his mind, really freaked me out.
Mirror. Mirror!
You understand that the nerves were completely severed, Mr. Napier. You see what I have to work with here.
Okay, I remember you telling me that. So I was thinking about you when that scene came up. I actually thought you were referring to the first time he goes back to revisit what his.
That's another one of my Jack Palance.
Yeah,
that's one of my all-time favorite moments.
Yes, yes. There's like he's walking in slowly, and there's a shot where you just kind of catch a glimpse of that smile.
Yeah.
Man, it is so creepy.
The cinematography there is incredible.
Yeah.
Like.
It's amazing.
I should have looked up. I don't remember who shot it, but it's the perfect contrast for it. And he's like in full silhouette, and every line he'll take like one step forward, 2 steps forward, and you just see the outline of it barely.
Yeah.
And you got to look for it, and it's brilliant because there's just enough exposure in there to where it forces you as the audience to kind of lean forward, and you're like trying.
I almost wanted to look away when I saw it. Actually, it was so creepy.
Yeah. And then, of course, eventually he steps all the way into the light and takes the hat off, and you see the full, features of his face.
That you, Sugar Bumps? Who the hell are you?
It's me, Sugar Bumps.
Oh, thank God you're alive. I heard you'd been
Fried? Is that what you heard? You set me up over a woman. A woman! You must be insane. Don't bother.
Your life won't be worth spit!
I've been dead once already. It's very liberating. You should think of it as therapy.
Jack, listen. Maybe we can cut a deal.
Jack? Jack is dead, my friend. You can call me Joker. And as you can see, I'm a lot happier. What a day.
But yeah, that is the best cinematography, and just the look, like the coat and the fedora, and he's
sure.
got the gun to him, and
Yeah.
you betrayed me for a woman, So,
No,
and as you can see, I'm a lot happier.
Yeah, it was that part. I actually thought you were referring to that moment.
That was, I mean, I'm pretty sure I've talked to you about that too.
Okay.
I always talk about that scene. Like, that is for sure the best, for me, the best shot in the movie.
And
in any movie. That's like in my repertoire of like all-time favorite movie shots. It's that before he reveals his face in the light.
And the thing is, I don't even think I caught that like any previous time I watched it.
Right.
I didn't notice it, and I didn't appreciate that moment to the extent that I do now in looking for it, because we talked about it, because you brought it up.
Yeah.
You brought it to my attention. So when that was happening, I was like really looking for it, and it was just so creepy.
So good. Yeah. Yeah. Super creepy, man.
Yeah.
I love the, the beginning here and I always forget, like, I just rewatched this movie a bunch of times because I played it for my students at school.
Oh, cool.
I think before winter break. So I'm like watching it over and over again.
That's cool.
I guess this is 2 years ago now, but I always forget, even though I saw it so many times, because again, when I was a kid, I didn't really see this one. I remember watching Batman Forever a lot. I used to love that movie. Batman and Robin never liked. And then, it wasn't until later on in my adult life that I was like, let me finally go back and watch this one, the first one. And I think it holds up really well. Let's start with that. Like 1989 Batman still holds up really well. It's so great. All the casting is wonderful. But I always forget that the beginning, they don't do his origin.
Yeah.
They frame it like it's going to be that, like the parents and the kid, and hey, we should go this way. No, it's all right.
Yes.
This will be faster, And they're getting, mugged. And Batman doesn't even save them at this point, too, which is another interesting thing. You think it's going to be him. It's not. The criminals get away. And I do love this opening. And the way they're made up and everything is like so Tim Burton, like he's got such an aesthetic, just the way they look. But I love that scene when they're up there talking about like, hey, you think, he's out there. I heard he's 12 feet tall and, it's this monster. And then when he shows up and, just beats them and the iconic, who are you, man? Like, I'm Batman.
Yeah. Well, those were all firsts, right? Because it's the first time we got an introduction to this character in a live action film. So I think they really had to tell that. And it's funny you mentioned the part about like you think when they start the movie, it's his origin story. And for a moment when I watched it last, I did think it was. For some reason, I thought those were his parents.
I always forget.
Yeah, I always forget. I completely forgot. And then I had all these thoughts about who Thomas Wayne was, considering how, that actor, that role was being played out. And then I realized it wasn't, right? But yeah, I know what you mean. It's like just seeing, I thought those two, thugs were cast really well.
Yeah.
And I love their reaction. Everything is just so like over the top there, I think, for the first time, that first encounter.
Yeah.
Like even when he comes down in the background, right? The whole he must do that like 3 times where he's like, putting his
the cape out.
Right? Like just to get that silhouette. That must have happened like 2 or 3 times there during that first encounter. But I get it. Yeah.
Yeah. It's such a good opening. I love too when we first meet, when we first meet Jack Napier, who would become Joker in this whole, I like that there is some character building with that of like, okay, he's kind of the henchman, like the right-hand man to Jack Palance, who I forget who's Jack Palance's character. He's not like a Maroni or anything.
No,
right?
I don't think so.
Like
I don't think so.
He's probably like just some new, oh man.
You know what I just...
Grissom.
Grissom, that's right.
But I like how they clue us into this kind of backstory of like, all right, they're going to betray Jack, they're going to sell out this and that. He's already got his deck of cards and, hey, you're my number one guy. I need you to go out here. And that they just, they betray him. I think that's really interesting. And yeah, when we first meet Michael Keaton or Bruce Wayne, I should say, I mean, I love his portrayal of Bruce, and I know you do too. You've talked about it to me before.
Yeah.
Like, dig into that.
Well, just his whole vibe to me feels of all the movies, with the exception, and we'll get into this, with the newest Batman. But when I think about him compared to, George Clooney's Batman, Val Kilmer's Batman, even what's his name,
Robert Pattinson, Christian Bale.
No, Christian Bale. Like to me, the way that he played Bruce Wayne, and maybe it's just because it was the first version of it that I was exposed to, but just feels the most like how I imagine that character to be. If I were to see it, right? Like in my opinion, I think with Nolan's Bruce Wayne, I felt like the portrayal of the billionaire playboy was done a little bit too over the top to me.
Yeah.
And just my opinion about it, I felt like Keaton's Bruce Wayne was just, I just believe that that's what he would be like.
Yeah.
You know?
It's interesting. This one is actually kind of in this middle ground between the Dark Knight trilogy and Matt Reeves' The Batman.
Yes. Yeah.
Because, yeah, it's like in the Dark Knight trilogy, that's really the only rendition we've gotten so far where, like you said, he plays up the billionaire playboy thing because it becomes apparent early on that he has to do that. So it's a little more about the duality and the dichotomy of that or whatever, if I'm using those words right. But the, you know, him having to play a role like that Bruce Wayne is the costume, you know? And whereas in The Batman that we'll talk about later, you know, he doesn't even care about movie, he doesn't give a shit about any of that. He's like purely Batman 24/7.
Yeah.
And, you know, I was actually watching a clip of Kevin Smith talking about this movie earlier as I was prepping for this. And he said it the best. And I think he's saying exactly what you're saying. And what I see, but I never articulated, is the way he describes it is so perfect with one word. He's like, Michael Keaton's Bruce Wayne is just, the way he portrays it is distracted. So he's not all Batman like Robert Pattinson's version is, but he is distracted. Like that's what he cares about. That's what he's thinking. So when you see him and he's at that party and he meets Kim Basinger and Knox and them, like you do get that vibe. Like every time he is Bruce, even when he goes on the date with her and all that.
Exactly.
And it's, man, when you put it that way, like just if you imagine Michael Keaton getting that direction, like you're just distracted. Every time you're Bruce,
that's great.
Distracted.
So
it's like,
good.
That makes sense. And if that is, say that was like the direction, man, he nails it. Like
it is.
I want to look
like
back at it like with that in mind.
It's
like,
so nuanced.
Yeah.
It's so nuanced. But, you know, because I saw it probably more recently than you last saw it. And I think that's the perfect way. I wouldn't be surprised if he got that direction.
Yeah.
You know, because I don't think he's trying to play the Bruce Wayne role up, right?
Yeah,
like in the Nolan
not.
trilogy, for sure, right? And he's just kind of like, Batman, but as Bruce Wayne, kind of just, you know, navigating, you know, the world. So,
I feel like you get the sense of him being somewhat of recluse and that he, you know, did grow up an orphan and didn't have a normal life, right? Like just
exactly.
His whole, like when he first talks to Kim Basinger, I'm forgetting your character, but Kim and
Vicky Vale.
Vicky Vale,
yeah.
That's like a Bond girl name, like Vicky Vale and Knox. You know, and I love that his first introduction when they're like looking at all the medieval weapons and look at a load of this guy. Where did he get this? And blah blah blah. And when he's just behind him listening,
like, it's Japanese.
He's like, yeah.
He's like, how do you know that?
I bought it in Japan. And then I love, you know, they're talking, and when he's like, oh, and Alfred, get Knox a grant.
Yeah.
But, you know, that whole dialogue, and I love, too, when he's having the date with Vicky in there, and this is such a good, funny, like, the humor that Disney inserts in, like, all the Marvel shit, and just the humor in general nowadays is so over the top and stupid, and I just don't like any of that shit. But I love this little comedic moment is when he's having the dinner date with her.
He's sitting across the table.
But like, the way it's shot is you think they're just kind of next to each other because it's like the medium shot of him and then her and, oh, can you know, how's the soup and this and that. And what? And then you cut to the wide and they're just like on this giant room, this giant table, and you pass the salt and he's like, oh, yeah. And he has to walk all the way.
Yeah.
But that, how it's like, I just love that. And it's very endearing how he also doesn't really feel like, he lives there, but he's so alone and all that. And there's the moment of, you know, do you want to get out of here and like order a pizza or whatever? And then the next shot is them like
the most coziest, warmest,
the coziest
setting.
Little kitchen, and Alfred's with them, you know? So it's like the three of them talking and sharing stories and all that is like, man, it's such a great way to quickly establish just him as a person and what he's about. And I think what he values, right?
Yeah, and I think to me that speaks to what you were saying. I mean, growing up as an orphan, let's say, and he, you know, not getting the full sense that he's a recluse yet. Like, I think he's just a little bit socially awkward.
Yeah, he's just off.
Too. Yeah, like he just doesn't even know how to be around people.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
And I think that's what that speaks to. So, like, even just being on a date with Vicky, I don't think he's often in that setting.
Yeah.
So just to have dinner or soup in that dining room he never uses, I think speaks to that, right? And he's like, oh, okay, well, I could just be myself. Let's let's get out of here and just have whatever, pizza or something. I think it speaks to that part, which I think is like really humanizes him, I think, in that role of being an orphan. So I love that.
I just took another sip of this rye, and it is still like one of the spiciest ryes ever. I can't believe this was like your first. I feel bad that I didn't have like an easy going bourbon for you.
It's fine. It's fine.
Yeah, I mean, it's a really great portrayal, and it's hard. I wish, man, I wish I could know what it was like. Like if I was a teenager when this came out, right? Because you got to think now it's like there's superhero like we have too many superhero movies and this and that at this point. That's like what everything is based around nowadays. But to be back in 89, where we haven't seen any portrayal of Batman since like the Adam West 1960s version, very comic-y and campy. You know, there was the racist one from the 40s and shit.
Never saw that one.
I haven't either. I've seen clips of it.
I've never even seen clips of it.
I'll send you some shit.
Sure.
It's crazy. But before this was like the Christopher Reeve, I think it was Richard Donner, like Superman, which I still haven't seen any of those movies.
No kidding.
I've never seen any of them. Yeah.
How's that possible?
I just never really cared.
Wow.
Okay. And somehow I know my dad like grew up liking Superman, but we never had the videotape or anything. But so it was just never in my repertoire growing up. But I just wish I could be in the shoes of the people that saw this when it came out, because it's hard to appreciate now like how fucking new this was.
Yeah.
And like how fresh this was, like, a Batman. But for that time, like this was like a dark version of it, like really dark compared to what they had in the 60s, and kind of like hardcore, and it was new. And
I was thinking about that watching it, because it's like seeing not only that character for the first time, but like everything that's a part of his world, like his gadgets, right? Like it really was the first time you got to see him play with all his toys, the Batmobile, right? Yeah. I don't think my favorite. I don't think anybody's going to argue that that's the best Batmobile, right? For sure. But you also get the Batwing too, right? You get both, right? And I think that was also what was really cool about the introduction of this character, right? Because everything that goes along with him, like being a billionaire, like has a lot of high tech stuff. So it's not just him, right? It's like the gadgets, the vehicles, the Batmobile, the Batwing, all that stuff, right? Which was really exciting to see for the first time, I think. But I think I know what you mean, because I thought about that watching it. It was like the first time seeing it when there was nothing else like this at the time. Even Superman's not like that. It's just him, So, but I think I still had that appreciation watching it again. I can recall what that was like to see those iconic vehicles for the first time in the movie. So
yeah, man, I got to chat about the music real quick while it's on topic. Like,
sure.
Danny Elfman, right? In his first, or I think the second big movie score he did, I think the first one was Pee-wee's Big Adventure, and then he did this one, and it's amazing because I learned fairly recently that he was the singer and the frontman for Oingo Boingo. We love Dead Man's Party and all that. But I didn't know that he wasn't a composer prior to that he was like a rock star turned composer. I thought he was just all of the above.
I didn't know any of that until just now.
Pee-wee's Big Adventure, and then this was his first time writing like that kind of music.
Crazy.
That's not like a rock and roll song, which is wild to
crazy.
Me. One, that he like was down. Well, that Tim Burton asked him. Two, that he was down for it. Three, that he delivered. And not only did he deliver, but this original Batman soundtrack, like that theme of Batman, like really set the template. Sorry for there's garages opening people, but really set the template for everything that come. Like every version of a Batman theme like is rooted like by this, if that makes sense, like owes it to this movie. All of them. You know?
The most obvious one I can think of is the animated series.
For sure,
I think it
yeah.
even has the exact same
Yeah.
line to open it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, all of them like pull something from this, which is pretty amazing. And this one has some bangers, man. Like,
so
but besides like the actual theme, the best part of
Descent.
music, Descent into Mystery.
Yeah.
When he's driving Vicky Vale
One of the most
to
iconic
Batcave,
scenes, yeah.
And it's so, man, even then there's that great shot too where you think they're going to hit the wall, but it's like an illusion and then it closes behind them. And oh my God, the music is so perfect. You know, when they do show the origin story, when he realizes, that music, it's very subtle, but it's so good.
So sad.
That's that's a great see. Like, I love that they went about the origin in that way too, that it's not like, oh,
it was revealed later. Yeah. It was revealed later.
We see it in the beginning. Yeah, it's revealed later. And only because, and it's hard to appreciate this too, that, you know, Joker ends up saying something to him that like triggers that memory, and he starts doing the research. Like,
well, I think it was Vicky Vale's character, right? Because she caught Bruce Wayne in a lie, you know, about being out of town. And she's trying to figure out what's up with this guy. She's seemingly almost more interested in him than Batman at the time. And then following him to the location where his parents were murdered.
Right.
And then Knox looked into it for her, right? And yeah, like they had a lot of moments setting that up because, you know, when Joker and his like henchmen started shooting up what was it? Like
the art museum place?
No, this was like there was like an announcement being made or something outdoors, right? And like Bruce Wayne didn't even flinch. He's just like standing while there's all these like bullets flying around.
They kill one of the gangster guys when the pen
that's right.
is
That's
mightier than the sword.
right, that's right.
And there's like the mimes and Bruce Wayne is just like, what the hell's going on
and
here?
Vicky's like watching this whole thing like, why is this guy not even like, you know, ducking or getting out of the way? And then she noticed that expression that he has is the same one that they found in the picture. So like just putting all the pieces together, I think. Yeah. And that was like near the end because that eventually led to her just showing up in the Batcave, right? Like, I know who you are now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
yeah, crazy.
Yeah. But the music is so good. I will still to this day listen to some of those tracks on repeat, especially when I'm driving. The finale is a great.
That's a good one.
Yeah,
too.
That's such a good one.
They go into that major key.
Yeah, it's so good. Oh my God. But yeah, when I watched it, it has, because the intro is just the credits, right? And it's kind of just whipping around the Bat logo.
Yeah.
But the music is just, you know, is allowed to shine there. It kind of like has the same kind of weight, I think, as even like a movie like The Lion King, where when it starts and it's like just the score in the beginning really sets you up to let you know just how elevated this movie is. You know?
That's a really good comparison. I immediately know exactly what you're saying with that.
It sets the tone for like the whole film, you know? So,
and for every film to come.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I love that scene where he is with Vicky Vale. I think it's when he's debating telling her who he is.
Yeah.
And that's when Joker comes in.
Right. Yep.
And they have their first kind of confrontation, but he's Bruce Wayne.
Yeah.
And when he's like, you know, this guy named Jack, just
let me tell you about this guy I know, Jack. Mean kid, bad seed, hurt people.
I like him already.
Yeah, you know, the problem was he got sloppy, you know, crazy. He started to lose it. He had a head full of bad wiring, I guess. Couldn't keep it straight up here. He was the kind of guy who couldn't hear the train till it was 2 feet from him. You know what happened to this guy, Jack? Well, made mistakes. And then he had us.
Lights out! Now you want to get nuts! Come on! Let's get nuts.
Tell me something, my friend. You ever dance with the devil in the pale moonlight? What? I always ask that of all my prey. I just like the sound of it. Never rub another man's rhubarb.
got sloppy. But when he like grabs the fire poker and he he's gonna try to match the craziness of Joker, and he just like slams, like he like breaks some glass.
Yeah.
He's like, "You want to get nuts? Come on, let's get nuts." And Joker, but his reaction is so good. He just like
so
looks
muted,
at him and just shoots him. You ever dance with the devil on the pill and just shoots him? What? Like,
which, by the way, that tray is not protecting anybody from a bullet.
No way.
Yeah, at that range.
I love that though. Just like he just gets all crazy. Like, what's this guy doing?
Yeah, it was really out of it just came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
I remember watching the first time. I was like, whoa.
I hated that they recycled that in that Flash movie too.
Oh, okay.
It's like, oh, let's like find all the best quotes from the first movie and have them say it just to say it.
Sure.
When there's like no reason for it.
Yeah.
The nostalgia bait or whatever.
Yeah.
No, that's great though. I mean, Joker, man. Let's talk Joker. Jack Nicholson, like, great, just incredible. Has the look. I love this idea too, that his face, because he fell into the chemical shit, is bleached, and his hair and everything, like that's what it looks like. So when he wants to appear normal, he's got to like put makeup on. So I like that. And I love the dual layers where there's points in the movie where he wipes away the flesh tone makeup, and then it's his like clown look, and that the makeup department was able to do that.
Yeah.
You know, like whether they dual layered that shit on him.
I was trying to figure that out. I wonder if it was on the rag.
Yeah, so he's like wiping the
wiping it
makeup on him. Yeah. But it's really well done, like the makeup job. And dude, however they did the smile, like whatever prosthetics and shit they used, that must have been super uncomfortable, but it looks so good, man. And that too, that because like in this movie, it's not that his mouth is cut and he's got like a Glasgow smile kind of thing. It's because when he first has his confrontation with Batman at the chemical plant, he gets a bullet like through his face, like through the cheeks.
Oh, that's right.
So that's where like the nerve damage, and the dude couldn't fix it. So his face is stuck like that, which I think is a brilliant way to do it. Like that's an interesting way. That's why the dude's like, yeah, the nerves were severed. I couldn't do anything. This is the best I can do.
I actually didn't.
You never thought that?
Yeah, I never. Yeah. I was like, what does nerve damage have anything to do with his face being bleached white?
Yeah, it's because he got shot.
Got it. So, I see. So that's why he has that permanent smile on his face. Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which I haven't seen this, but apparently the Joker, you know, the creation of the character was based off. There's a movie called The Man Who Laughs. It's a silent film from, I think, the 1910s. I haven't found a copy of it, but I don't remember what the story is, but basically this dude gets in trouble and they deform his face.
Oh, jeez.
By like, they do something to fuck him up so he has like the permanent smile. So the idea of Joker and that look like came from that movie. And I think the way they took it on in this one, like the way the makeup did it is like very reminiscent of that film and that character.
Sure.
Which is cool. I really need to see it. Yeah, the Man Who Laughs.
I see. The movie, I think, was generally well cast. I was just talking to a friend about, she was wondering who else was up for the role of Batman that first time through, along with Keaton, right?
Robin Williams.
Well, Robin Williams for Joker.
Oh, sorry.
Right?
Batman,
yeah, for Joker. But, you know, if anybody else was in the running to play Batman that first time through. But I feel like both Jack Nicholson, I'm
showing him the photo of the silent film.
Yeah, but I think both Michael Keaton and Jack Nicholson both have features naturally, like you know, like their natural facial features that resemble the characters they play. Like even like Batman and Joker. Like I think Michael Keaton has those eyebrows. I feel like that are just
right.
You know, yeah. So no, I think it was great. And there's something about I don't know if it's just films from that period of time, but I think you get these great character actors that play, just the characters just seem so much more dynamic, you know? They don't all seem so one-dimensional. I feel like a lot of movies nowadays and superhero movies, like the focus is not on characters and character development, that they all seem kind of one-dimensional to me.
Definitely, and very well said. I mean, we already talked about how nuanced Keaton is, and I mean, even Jack Nicholson as Joker shows a lot of range. Even when he's being crazy and shit, he shows range. And the fact that we see him before he becomes Joker, you know, gives us a little more insight into that character. And I mean, I think he I don't know that you could have casted anyone better in that role. Like even Robin Williams, yeah, but I still just maybe a Riddler,
see
you know.
it, yeah.
But Jack Nicholson he's always had that vibe and that look. If only he was maybe 10, like 15 years younger, 20 years younger. Like if we got like a 70s era Jack Nicholson, I think would have played, or like early 80s, like The Shining. Like I feel like he could have gotten casted just off The Shining if it's just his whole aura in that movie. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if that was it. If Tim Burton was like, "Oh hell yeah, that's the guy."
Maybe
it needs to be him. But you know, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. He has that look, like you said, like naturally has the smile, has the look, has a very interesting voice and a way of speaking. Yeah, man, no, he just nails it. Like,
yeah, and I think he does a great job of like, probably playing the character down in the beginning before he turns into Joker, but then just on his way of like really kind of losing his mind or going crazy. Like that scene where he's like talking to, is it Bob? And he's like basically imitating. Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah. And what it reminded me was, cause I recently rewatched Face Off.
Okay.
And there's a lot of like that kind of, I think, vibe too, where, well, in that case in Face Off, right, it's like he's trying to act like, what's his name? Nicolas Cage's character, right? And just trying to be all crazy over the top. Yeah. So, but yeah, I really appreciate that from Jack Nicholson's performance for sure.
Yeah, great performance. I think well written too.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah, absolutely, for sure.
Yeah, man, I don't know if I have anything else to add about it. Like, I think the action and the fighting is pretty good for that time. Like, you know, the first time we really see Batman go hand to hand is when he's saving Vicky Vale and he like fights the guys in the alley, and there's a dude attacking him with the sword and he's like blocking it, and that's all pretty cool. You know, I think it's funny that the ending one part that I do hate, I will say this, is when he's taking the Batwing and he's got Joker in his sights and Joker's in the middle of the street. And then he's just standing there and then he's shooting at him with the Batwing and like misses somehow. That part sucked. But I do like then Joker pulls out this giant pistol that's like...
Wait,
like
it sucks because he didn't hit him?
Because he didn't hit him. It's just stupid. It's too contrived. It's too contrived for me.
Yeah, I get it. I hear you.
I do like the incorporation of like the laughing, smiling gas and the fact that he's doing like chemical warfare on Gotham City. Like that shit was creepy when that news lady gets killed and has a smile. Like that shit freaks me out. But the fact that he's wreaking havoc on the city through chemical warfare and, you know, like how do you stop that and fight that is really interesting. And when he takes over the television, like, hey, we're going to throw a parade for the centennial of Gotham and there's going to be all this money and just come down. There's floats and all that. And how he just sucks all the people into coming because of greed and money.
Sure.
And he's just going to gas the whole fucking place. It's crazy.
Yeah, I have like, two thoughts. First one is that scene where he's flying down the Batwing and he like, I caught that too. Like, how does he not hit him?
Yeah.
It kind of reminds me of that Dark Knight scene.
There's a few moments of that.
Yeah.
I remember the first time watching The Dark Knight, I was like, this has to be like kind of a reference to that.
Sure.
It's so similar. There's that moment. And even the fact that they both end on top of a building. And I haven't watched Dark Knight in a while, but I haven't figured out yet like why Joker says this line. So to me, it's always a reference to this movie, you know, kind of sneakily, is when they're up. Or I guess they were in that building when he throws Rachel out the window. But when Batman's up there going head to head with him and Joker's like, of all the familiar places, you know, and it's when they're in that final stare down and Batman's like hanging there. Always felt kind of like a nod to the fact that they end at the top of the building here.
Yeah.
You know, and that Joker's at the top and Batman and Vicky are hanging there. You know, I do like that similarity.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then another thing, I think the chemical warfare thing, I don't think I caught that as a kid. Like, I knew
sure as hell didn't.
Yeah, I knew, but because when I rewatched it, I was like, oh, that's why the news reporters are all like, they got like pimples and like they got, you know, their hair is all crazy. Yeah, it's like I totally got it now. Like they just weren't used; they were too scared to use anything. I totally missed that as a kid. I didn't know what was going on. Yeah. There was something else. You said something else at the end there that I had a reaction to, but I can't remember what you said.
Like how they got up to the building or the
Well, there was a lot
plane.
of things like that, like in that final scene where, they threw in the 89 one, he throws Joker off and then they look over and then somehow he pulls them both over the edge. And then the next shot is them just both hanging off the edge.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then like they go up the tower and then somehow there are goons up there that he finds. They're just already up there.
Yeah.
But it's fine.
It is interesting that we get this moment, because now we know, or he knows that Joker killed his family. Mm-hmm. And he says it. He says that same line, "You ever dance with the devil in the pale moonlight?" And like starts beating on him. And he's like, "You killed my parents. You made me."
Yeah. But you made me first type of thing.
Yeah.
Right?
You idiot. You made me. Yeah. You idiot. And he's like, "Oh, hey, but when he's beating on him, and this is where how did he write this or came up with this? It's just such a weird joke, but it works for me so well. Is when he's getting hit, and he's like, "Wait," and he's like, puts the glasses on. He's like, "You wouldn't hit a guy with glasses." Which, like, where did that come from? Like, where did he hear that? And why does that work? It's just such an odd because we see him doing the Joker thing throughout the movie, and it works, and it's so good, and I like buy it all, and like his kind of madness.
Yeah,
but that is just such a funny.
No, that's what
you
it is.
Hit a guy
His
with
madness.
glasses, would you?
He does hit him, right?
He does. Yeah. That's when he throws him over the ledge.
Yeah.
Oh my god, so good.
Yeah, I imagine that's written in there. I don't think that was like ad libs.
Yeah, no, I think it is. It's just funny. Like what? Like I wish of all the lines, I just want to know when he's sitting there at the typewriter. Like, what's a joke I could throw in here?
Well, I think it also speaks to like Joker's like fragility. Like he's not a very like, you know what I mean? Like he's not as physical as Batman.
Yeah.
So in his madness, like he's going to resort to things like that to get him to not fight. Right. He's not going to just like try to like
guns and acid flowers.
Yeah. Things like that. Yeah. And then just like resulting to like the whole putting the glasses on. Right.
Yeah.
He's almost like joking about the moment because he knows he's not going to be able to overpower Batman.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. At that moment, he knows he's kind of toast in terms of the fight.
Yeah. And I'll just say this. I think even watching it as a kid, just that whole, where Batman ties his foot to the gargoyle. Like I just, I don't know. Every time I watched that, even as a kid, I was like, oh yeah, he's fucked. Right?
Yeah, I still get the way it's all shot because I'm afraid of heights.
Yeah, me too.
So even when I watch it, I get freaked out when he's just like slipping down because
I just imagine
ladder.
and like the people in the helicopter probably can't see that.
Yeah, they're just like, "Hey, climb up."
Yeah, they just keep tugging
up.
on him. Yeah. Oh man.
Yeah. And you can't hear, you can't communicate.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, it's a hell of a movie, and I recommend it to anyone who hasn't seen it. Anyone who has seen it, but it's been a while, give it another watch. I mean this 100%, especially in like the barrage of comic book movies we've had over the last decade or so, and revisiting this one, it holds up, man. Like, yeah, some of the action and whatnot's a little dated, but as far as character, acting, aesthetic, like it's Tim Burton's Gotham City, man, is like another kind of definitive look, like just all that production design and this kind of industrial look in a way. Yeah, it's all really, really well done.
For sure. And I would say Keaton is probably my favorite Batman. I've told you about this.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a good. I don't know who I could name as my favorite. I think they all bring something.
They all bring something different for sure.
To it,
yeah, but because he was the first, I think in my eyes he is Batman. Like
for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dang. So. Well, that's all I got for this one. Any other final thoughts? You good?
No. Yeah.
All right. Cool. That's a wrap, everybody. Cheers. Thank you for listening to the Drinks in a Movie podcast. You can now find us on Instagram at Drinks in a Movie Pod, where we'll be posting photos from all the various films that we discuss. You can also email us at drinksinamoviepod@gmail.com. Please rate, review, and subscribe, and thank you for listening.